In fact, our next guest, Congressman Peter Welch, was among those who demanded that BP defer the dividend payment. He, in fact, wrote to the CEO, Tony Hayward, asking him to suspend dividends and also stop spending money on advertising until the cleanup in the Gulf is finished. Congressman Peter Welch joins us from Capitol Hill. Congressman, thanks very much for being here with us.
Good to be here.
Why is it important in your mind for BP to defer the dividend, to stop spending money on advertising? Are you genuinely afraid this company is going to run out of money and not have enough to cover the claims and such in the Gulf?
Well, you want to make sure that they do. I mean, every corporation knows that what you have to do is meet your obligations first, and then you pay your dividends after you've met your obligations. The amount of expense in cleaning up and compensating from this spill is going to be immense. The estimates are ballooning up to $40 billion. So it's going to be very reassuring to folks on the Gulf Coast and to taxpayers, incidentally, that BP takes actions consistent with its pledge to meet its obligation. And that action would be to postpone paying dividends until we make sure that the cost of the cleanup is completed.
Congressman, but you don't feel like it's more a punitive call on your part, meaning that any analyst we've spoken to says BP has more than enough cash, even burning the $27 million a day that they are for cleanup efforts?
Well, you know, taxpayers and Gulf Coast folks who've been victims don't want to rely on analyst expectations and predictions. I mean, the bottom line here is that this is an absolute catastrophe, and there's victims up and down the line. First of all, the folks on the Gulf Coast, the 11 members of the Transocean who died, but shareholders have been a victim of the absolute reckless conduct by the officials at BP who ran a slipshod operation. This was an avoidable event, and they cut corners. So the shareholders are among the victims here. And frankly, if I were a shareholder of BP, I'd be very upset with the management for getting us into this predicament. But bottom line, they've got to set aside the cash to meet their obligation.
Congressman, I would like to focus in, if I may, for a moment on the advertising issue. BP's advertising campaign, from what I've seen, costs $50 million. $50 million is a drop in the bucket relative to how much BP makes, how much cash flow it has, and how much it's going to be spending in the Gulf. Doesn't the company have the right to say something in public? This is, after all, America, the land of free speech. If it were Chevron, which has operations in the North Sea, and had a spill there, how would you feel if the British government banned Chevron from advertising?
Well, they have a right to say something, but it's a pretty stupid thing for them to do. I mean, I've seen people just watching the advertising, and they head scratch. They wonder, why is it that BP is talking about how good they are, spending money to do so, $50 million, rather than putting that money into the cleanup? If they wanted to create goodwill, they'd advertise after the job was done, not advertise their way out of their negligence on this. So this is a question for BP. They've got the right to do it, but it seems pretty dumb in terms of trying to achieve their goal of restoring credibility with the American public.
Oh, but with all due respect, Congressman, you're right. It is BP's choice. Why would you ask them to stop advertising in a letter that becomes public and just fuels the political rancor that clearly is spilling over in Britain right now?
Well, there's 40,000 barrels of oil a day. I mean, this is not a private event that's going on. These are not backroom discussions. And in fact, one of the errors that BP made is that they have not been as forthcoming with the scope and magnitude of this spill as possible. I mean, you know, a company that gets in trouble has to make a decision immediately. Are they going to try to lowball it and obscure what's going on, or are they going to be fully transparent? And the ones that come out on the other end with more public credibility are the ones who acknowledge what they did, and they share the information, and they don't try to shade it or hide it. So the advertising, I think it is their call. They've got the right to do it. But if I think it's an unwise decision for them in terms of restoring public credibility. And it's a finger in the eye, frankly, to folks on the Gulf Coast who are getting nickeled and dimed right now. You know, there are folks who own motels or hotels. There's fishermen who can't fish. They're filing claims. They're not getting paid. They're getting lowballed on those claims. And then it really is offensive, I think, to a lot of people to see the company pouring a lot of money into an advertising campaign that doesn't move forward the cleanup or the compensation.
Congressman, thank you very, very much for joining us. Democratic Congressman Peter Welch of Vermont speaking to us about BP.